So I've got the new DJI Mini 3 right here. You see that Hasselblad camera on a drone that's less than 250 grams? Just kidding. This is actually the XKJ K911, and it is a sub 250 gram drone, and you can get it with obstacle avoidance, and it's gonna cost you less than $100. Yep, we got brushless motors, it's got GPS, return to home, follow me, and they claim an 8K camera. Yeah, 8K. Look at that, it even has a Hasselblad H on there. Sounds too good to be true, doesn't it? Does DJI finally have some competition in the mini category? All right, so let me just say the answer to those questions are no. No, DJI does not have anything to worry. This is not a real competitor to the DJI Mini 2 or Mini 3, Mini SE, any of the Mini series of drones coming from DJI. This is absolutely a hobby or toy grade drone, but that doesn't mean it's not good. It's just not the same thing. This is actually a really good drone for a beginner, for somebody that wants to learn how to fly but doesn't want to break the bank. Now, it's not going to take great pictures and video. No, it's not shooting 8K, and this absolutely is not a Hasselblad camera. So now that we've got that out of the way, let's talk about what we do actually have here. It is a sub 250 gram drone, checking in at about 215 grams, and that's actually really nice. That means you can add different accessories to it if you so choose. Not that I really think you should, but you can add an obstacle avoidance module. All right, so I opted for the one without obstacle avoidance, and the way you would add it is you open up this bay. It's actually kind of a pain to get in there. They don't leave you good spacing, and then you put this little module on top, and it just kind of snaps into place. Now, I don't have the proper one for this. The system works okay. You know, this little camera spins around and senses obstacles, but it is not obstacle avoidance. It is obstacle sense, beep, and stop. It's not going to go around anything. I found these to be a hindrance, and I just kind of took them off. Now, is it worth an extra $10 or $15? Yeah, maybe if you want to play with it, but you're more than likely going to remove it and just kind of fly without it. I found it to be more of an annoyance than anything else, but if you want to try it, give it a shot. It's okay. I've watched some videos with it working. It's kind of hit or miss, which is actually kind of par for the course when it comes to the flight modes on this drone as well. You'll see that it does have a downward facing optical flow camera. You can actually switch to use that camera, but it's pretty darn poor quality, so I don't suggest that you do, because you can use this camera and point it straight down with a push of the button on the remote controller. Now, this camera does say EIS, which would make you think that it's electronically image stabilized, but it is not. This is going to be shaky footage. There's no gimbal, no dampeners, nothing going on to keep the video from jittering or bouncing. So the footage coming out of this, it certainly isn't 8K. It's upscaled, and it's saved not on the drone, but on your phone. And that's the worst of all qualities, but it does save price because you don't have to worry about paying for an SD card reader. Although I would, right? You're going to get better quality video, but the K11 here just doesn't have that available to you.
Just looking at this footage, obviously it's shaky. Obviously we're losing frames. That's going to happen because it's saving on the phone, not an SD card. And it actually saves at standard HD, right? It doesn't save at 4K or 8K, and it doesn't really matter. I guess the pictures do save at 4K, but they're not really 4K pictures. This is not a high quality camera. Just keep that in mind.
So the pictures and video out of this thing aren't great. They're not 4K quality. They're not 8K quality. They're not 2K quality. They're not even 1080 quality. I wouldn't even call them 720 quality. They're just meh. The pictures are probably a little bit better if you kind of line it up and get it set in one position because it's not shaking. You get a good picture. But again, this isn't a good drone for pictures and videos. This is a good drone for beginners. If you want something to learn how to fly with, this is a pretty decent tool. You have almost 20 minutes of flight time with this thing, and it claims a range of 1,200 meters. That's, you know, about a quarter mile shy of a full mile. But is it really going to go that far? You know, I don't recommend that you push it to that distance. I think you could probably get half of that maybe, but you're going to lose video signal. And I say video signal is good for about 600 meters. In my testing, it's good for about 100 meters. Maybe you could do better in different environment than but this really isn't something you're gonna wanna push super far away. I did test a handful of the flight modes, the follow me. Eventually I got it to work and it did follow me, but I wasn't able to control anything on the left stick, so the throttle or the yaw. What I actually wanted to do was yaw the drone so it was looking at me while it was following me, and every time I got into follow mode, it just kind of turned and looked away and then would follow, which kind of defeats the purpose if you ask me. Return home works. It didn't work every single time. I don't quite understand why, but that's kind of par for the course when you're buying a drone that's less than $100. I found myself turning off the GPS mode and just flying it like a line of sight drone. And that's actually where I really enjoyed flying this. It has pretty decent flight characteristics and it flies well, it responds well. And like I said, I think this is a really good beginner drone, especially for less than $100. I'd opt for the one without obstacle avoidance. Save yourself, I think it's almost 20 bucks, because it's not really worth it, not on a drone like this. The other drone that I like to recommend that is less than $100 is this. This is the Rise Tello. Now you can see right away that this is a much smaller drone. K911 here is absolutely going to do better in wind. It has a better range as well. You can fly it further. It'll handle the wind better. But this is still a pretty solid option. And the reason I like the Rise Tello is it has some really well-built intelligent flight modes that just work. And the camera has image stabilization, so the footage isn't going to be quite as jittery. Now it does have brushed motors, right? That's kind of a downfall. And it is pretty limited. But this thing is pretty rock solid steady with these sensors on the bottom. So it's not GPS, but it behaves a lot like a GPS drone, especially in good lighting. So I also like the Tello because you can learn how to program and code with this. That certainly isn't an option with the K911. But in terms of, if I want a drone to learn how to fly something bigger like a Mavic or a Phantom, this is going to perform a little bit more similarly to one of those. It does fold up nicely and it stores in this carrying case that came with the drone, which is actually a really pretty solid bonus. A lot of drones for this price will not give you a carrying case. You got to figure out what you're going to do or keep it in the box. The remote here is pretty standard. The antennas, you're going to want to flap those up first, otherwise it makes pulling the phone holder in the bottom out here a little bit more difficult. This is an old style Mavic controller where your phone is kind of held in place in the bottom. There's a couple of buttons here. This is to turn GPS on or off. The return to home button is right here. This is your compass calibration button. I'm not sure I figured out what this button does. I think it cycles through headless mode and things like that. All of my instructions were in Chinese, and my Chinese is not the greatest, so not exactly sure how that worked. There is a record button here and a camera picture button here on the top. So, a decent controller, certainly hobby grade, but it gets the job done. The remote here charges in the bottom with a micro USB cable. And that's the same for this battery as well. You get an extra set of props, a tiny screwdriver, and some cables to do your charging to kind of complete the package. Overall, like I said, this is a solid beginner drone, but don't expect it to compete with a DJI Mavic Mini. It just isn't. This drone is not well suited for photography or videography. This drone is well suited for a beginner, someone wanting to learn how to fly. Again, I'd opt for the drone without obstacle avoidance, just kind of knowing that it's not great obstacle avoidance. It will warn you of most big obstacles, but again, I found the obstacle avoidance like this was just more of a hindrance. I couldn't fly around objects. It was just always beeping and not allowing me to proceed like I wanted to. So I ended up taking it off the drone that I had this obstacle avoidance on. Hopefully this was helpful. Make sure you click that thumbs up button, subscribe to the channel. Hopefully we'll even see you on one of our live streams. Good luck everyone and happy flying.